Today's guest on Out of Office for Good is Eva Woon. She is the brilliant mind behind Inari Jewellery. Eva was a high-flying management consultant that traveled around the world to help build businesses from the ground up. She was damn good at her job and was well on her way to becoming partner. But one fine day, she decided to leave it all behind and go back to her roots and her true passion for jewelry. And that is how Inari was born. Today's conversation is going to be so insightful because we're going to learn how Eva has applied her consulting knowledge into the crazy world of entrepreneurship. So happy to have you here today, Eva.
It's lovely to be here, Divya. Thank you so much for having me.
You were so successful in the consulting world. Why did you want a different life?
I really enjoyed being in consulting, and I think it really taught me a lot of things and gave me a lot of opportunities. But at some point in time, I realized that, all this hard work that I was putting into my job was for someone else's dream.
Right.
It gets to a point where you ask yourself, what if I put in all that effort and all that energy into something that I truly believe in and that I'm passionate about? And I think it came to a point where, leaving this comfort would be exciting, would be more fulfilling for what I want to achieve in life. And that was where, the leap of faith and the uncertainty was worth taking.
Yeah.
That was when I decided that to give it a go and see what's out there.
Yeah. You said leap of faith just now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you decided to leave the consulting world, what did that leap look like for you?
Oh my God. It was very messy.
Okay.
A lot of crying, a lot of therapy actually.
Right.
It took me one whole year of therapy before I decided that, you know what, it's okay. Let's just go for it. And I think after making the decision of, going for it, it gets even harder actually because people around you would try and stop you and they will, make you second guess your decision. But you have to pull through. And then once you decide to follow through and actually quit your job, you're faced with this existential crisis because how do I introduce myself after, building this whole persona that I've been building for the past 9 years? So when people started asking me, oh, so what do you do? That was where, I find myself really choking because I was embarrassed. I felt like, it was embarrassing to have left, a pretty successful corporate job to say, hey, I'm starting my own jewelry brand. That was quite hard to adopt. But after a while, I think I'm getting there.
Yeah. No, I can completely relate to what you're saying because I was at a point where when I left my corporate job, I was just isolating myself because I felt so shameful. I don't know why, but it feels like, although you're making such a big step, but you're kind of like embarrassed or you feel like you're taking a step back, although it's such a bold step forward.
It is. Yeah. I think, in fact, for the first 6 months, I remember waking up one day where my peers were getting promoted and I looked at my husband. At that time, he was just a boyfriend. And I told him, today is the worst day of my life. And he looked at me and he was like, it's just today. The rest of the days will be the best days of your life. So why are you comparing your own journey with someone else's?
Right.
That really sat with me until today because I realized that I was building my own dreams, not someone else's dream. Whereas not a lot of people can say that they are taking that leap forward and chasing their own dreams.
Yeah. A lot of people would have wanted your old life being a big consultant, but also I think a lot of people would kill for your life now as well.
Probably. I don't know. I think entrepreneurship is a whole different ballgame. So it really depends on what you're trying to strive for and what you're trying to achieve and learn from in life. Yeah.
Yeah. And your experience in the consulting world, it was more on greenfield strategy. And so for those that don't understand what that term is, you're starting from complete zero and you're building companies or building businesses from the ground up. And how has that experience shaped your approach to setting up Inari?
I am super grateful for having had that experience because not every job or not every experience will allow you to build something from ground up, like you said. But even better, doing it on someone else's cash,
Yes.
someone else's resources, not yours.
Yeah.
So that really allowed me to look at the big picture, trying to figure out what exactly are we trying to achieve and how do we get there. So everything from the business model, the HR side of things, how are we going to make money? How far before we break even? How are we going to operate on a BAU basis? Everything. So it really taught me the breadth of things, but at the same time, the importance of the depth of things, which I think a lot of people may not have had that luxury to experience before starting their own business. But of course, having that experience is important. It definitely did shape the way I run Inari. But I would say that it's another layer of complication and running your own business, because now it's your own money, your emotions, and you're alone.
And you're bearing all the risks.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then you always think of what if?
Yeah.
What if, it all goes to whatever, right? It fails and you've lost 2 years of potential progression in your career. So that's always that what if. So a lot of therapy has helped me to reposition how I view things in life, and that has helped me move forward, I would say.
Yeah. It's also what we spoke about before, that and this is something I wish I knew going into entrepreneurship, is that as much as it is setting up the business and the practical side of things, I think the emotional part of things has a bigger part to play.
Oh, 100%.
And you're literally going through emotional growth while you're trying to birth out this business. And
100%. And actually, I think that is the biggest learning I wasn't expecting when I went into entrepreneurship. You actually learned a lot. You learn a lot about yourself as a person. What kind of person are you? How do you handle situations that you have no control over? How do you treat people, right? And how do you put yourself out there? Are you authentic, or are you just really trying to sell to make money? So all of these different things really allow you to, take a step back and really look at yourself through it all. What kind of person you are. I think that is my biggest realization that I wasn't expecting to learn out of entrepreneurship.
And in your consulting years, you were helping people set up their businesses. So what did you notice were the common mistakes that people were making? It might be a different context because that was more on the business side of things. What are some takeaways that you think are lessons that maybe aspiring entrepreneurs could sort of avoid in their journey?
I think people tend to sit too long in an idea and build in the dark. I think it's similar in consulting as well, right? Because you have this idea, you spend months and months and months on this deck that is 200 pages long. It's just an idea, right? Ultimately, you will never know whether an idea works until or unless you actually execute it and put it out there. So I'd say that don't build in the dark. If nobody knows what you're selling or the service that you're providing or the problem that you're solving for, how will you know whether it is something they would pay for or they need, right? And if that is the case, can you imagine spending 2 years, 1 year, and all your heart and money on this thing that is in your mind, but in reality, there is no demand for it? So definitely build, test, and do it all really early. Whatever feedback that you get, iterate. So there's this concept in consulting that we use a lot called agile. Basically, it means iterative process. So you have an idea, you build on that idea, you roll it out, you let people give you feedback, and then you take that feedback and you improve on the idea that you have, and do it consistently. And that is what I realized entrepreneurship is all about as well. It's not like you have an end goal, you start and you get to the end goal. It's never
not a straight line.
Yeah, it's not a straight line. It's always, you have an idea, what is going to solve that problem, or what is that product or service that you want to put out there. You put it out there, you realize, hey, this concept that I have in my head is actually slightly different from what I think the market needs, right? And based off of customer feedback and based off of what you see, how people react or interact with your product or services, you improve. And that is how you keep changing and reiterating. And that whole process is a continuous journey that you will experience for sure in the whole length of your entrepreneurship journey, no matter whether you're in 3 years into your business, 3 months into your business, or even 30 years into your business,
Yeah, it's constant evolving and evolving. And I feel like even with this podcast, like you said, building in the dark for 3 months, I was just building in the dark. And I feel like it was kind of like a reason or an escape or a delay of putting myself out there. And even then, the idea for this podcast just kept evolving to what it is now. So I can really relate to what you're saying. And a bit of an imaginative question for you. If you were to start a completely new venture, something that you've never experienced before, what would be your step-by-step process?
Okay. So I will definitely go out there and do a survey or see what your competitors are doing, whether there are any competitors. And it doesn't need to be in the same country. It could be in a different country. Definitely see if there is a problem for you to solve or a demand for your product or your service. Then you then create the product, right? So when you create the product, again, don't get to the end state. We always have this like rosy, shiny, like ideal product or service that we want to achieve. But sometimes that takes time, right? And sometimes that might not be exactly what the consumers need. So build something that is good enough, or what we call MVP, minimum viable product. Put it out there. Once I have that, I will actually go for events if you're selling products. Because when you go for events and picking the right location where you can sell, you will get instant feedback.
Oh, you mean like setting up booths?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, setting up booths if you're doing product, because I'm in a product-based business, right? And I realized it took me so long before I actually went for my first pop-up. It took me 6 months because I was making up reasonings in my head. And I was like, it's so expensive. Who's going to pay that amount of money by the side of the street or like at an event space? And I don't even have a name for myself yet. Who would pay for this, right? All of these things that I told myself in my head. And I felt very comfortable sitting with that excuses because then I will never be proven wrong, right? But when I finally went for pop-ups, that was what changed my business, I would say. That was where I started building a community without realizing it. I started getting feedback in terms of what people want, what people would pay for, what people cared about in a product or a brand. It's a human connection that I don't think sitting behind a laptop will give you, So I would definitely do that. And based off of those feedback, iterate, reinvest into different parts of business, and then go from there. And definitely, I think the other very important thing that I'm still trying to figure out is digital marketing, social media. It's honestly so much cheaper to start a business now than it was maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? We have resources like AI that we can tap into that makes, knowledge so much cheaper to obtain. It's really so much easier than what it was before.
Yeah. What is the difference, in your opinion, of running a venture as a passion project as opposed to running it as a business?
I think when people think of a business, they typically start it from a place of interest. Either they're interested in, baking, or interested in painting, or interested in, playing tennis, right? So it all stems from a passion. But what people don't realize is that when you start a business, in order for it to be a sustaining business that can scale and grow, it needs to be profit making. And when you start making money, you tend to have all these other responsibilities as well, like financing, right? Are you aware of your accounts? Are you making profit actually? HR, you're hiring people, you're managing them, your product quality, right? Social media, suddenly you are a content creator, right?
Yeah.
And then you're an email marketer, and then you are customer service. All of this thing comes together to form a business. And if you don't have all of this working together to push your business forward, really you have a passion project. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to sustain and scale. And there's no problem. Don't get me wrong, it's no problem starting a passion project. And that is where ultimately you need to, ask yourself before you start, what is your goal with this project or this business? What do you want to achieve? Some people would want it as a passion project where, I actually spend maybe 5 hours a day so that I can spend more time with my family or do this other thing that I want to pursue. Or actually, no, you want to build a multi-million-dollar business that is, you're operating in multiple different regions or countries, right? So you kind of need to ask yourself from the very beginning, what exactly is your goal?
Yeah.
And that just helps you keep in your lane, because when you start running a business, suddenly everyone is an expert advisor.
Yes.
Everyone wants to give you unsolicited feedback. It comes from a good place,
Yes.
but it's also very distracting, especially when you are in the early days of your business, when you're trying to figure it out, when you're trying to rewrite your identity, and everyone is telling you, have you seen, oh, brand A has done this, brand B has done this, you should do this. And it can get very unnerving when you have so much noise.
Yeah.
So get clear with what exactly is your vision, because then you can say, thank you very much for your feedback, and leave it as that, because you know that that's not the direction you want to head towards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be very clear of what you want to achieve. Then it could be a passion project, or it could be actually a full-blown business, depending on what your goals and dreams are.
Yeah. That's very well said.
Thank you.
When I left the 9 to 5, and I'm sure a lot of people out there would have the same experience, where you're so used to this routine, being told how to spend your time. When you leave that and you go into entrepreneurship, it's kind of a culture shock. And so how do you bring in structure into this chaos of entrepreneurship?
I think when you first start, it's not even chaos. It's like confusion.
Yes.
Right? You're like, suddenly I dictate my days. I dictate where I want to go, like what I want to do, how I want to spend my time. No one's going to tell you that the deadline is today or 2 weeks down the road. This is what you need to do, right? These are the tasks. And here is like 5 other team members that you can help, that you can like
That
work
can support
with.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have nothing but an empty room and like a clear calendar. And you're like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right? So I think really before even talking about how do you introduce structure, it is asking yourself, what is your goal? Sure, on a long-term basis, what is your goal? But in order to get there, what do you need to do today, this month, this week, this month, the next 3 months, right? Once you have that idea, once you have the big picture, break it down into actions. And typically this gets pretty intimidating because people don't really know how to do it, because this is probably the first time we're all doing it as well.
Yes.
So that's the whole process of figuring things out. So this is where, I'd say break your task down to the smallest possible task that you can. And while you're doing that, speak to people who have done it before, people who are living the life that you are dreaming of, because they have done it before. They have taken the path that you haven't, right? So why not tap into their knowledge? And you'll be surprised how giving people are, how willing they are to share their experience, because they know how hard it is. And that helps you validate the task and the path that you think you need to take, right? And thereafter, be really disciplined about how you execute, and then gain that feedback, and then change the tasks or the work that you think you need to do for the next couple of months to get to maybe a quarterly goal. And after that, a yearly goal, and you take it from there. And I think, the most important thing is be kind to yourself. I think people are just rushing to be overnight success. And the funny thing is, overnight success is really not overnight. You have no idea how many people who have told me about, oh my God, have you heard about this brand? And this brand has been doing this. Oh my God, this brand has been doing that. And I'm like, yeah, this brand has also been around for 20 years or like 10 years or like, So it's so easy to start comparing yourself. But again, keep in your own lane and really think about what is your vision. Be very guided by that. And do that. You'll filter out the noise and then you'll be able to focus better. Sometimes scrolling on Instagram, sometimes getting so many different feedback from different people who have never done it before can be very, very distracting.
And what kind of tools do you rely on to stay on top of things?
So for me, there's two tools that I cannot live without. The first is Trello. I am a control freak and an absolute organizer. I need to organize everything in my life. So Trello is great because it allows me to keep track of every single thing that I need to do or I have an idea about and I want to make sure that I remember. And then prioritizing my weeks and my days down to the hours sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. So I start off by saying, okay, Monday to Sunday, because when you're an entrepreneur, you work 7 days a week. What's my day gonna look like? What's my week gonna look like? What's the most important priority? And then from there, reshuffling because things changes so quickly as well. So you might have a plan, but that plan may not sustain the day. Something at 2 p.m. might come up and suddenly your whole week needs to be reshuffled. So Trello really allows me to see a bigger picture of what my week would look like and then allowing me to readjust what I need to do. And I now actually get my team to use it as well because then I train them to think that way. It helps them kind of prioritize what their workload is. I don't need to micromanage because I know what they're prioritizing. And if they're not prioritizing on the right things, I can readjust and give feedback. So it also teaches independence. So not just for me, but for my team as well. And the second thing that I use a lot is Google Calendar. And that is where I structure my days into blocks colors. So I've got red color for anything family related. Anything that is blue is my personal thing. Anything green is my business side of things. So it allows me to balance, personal life, my family life, and then my business as well. Yeah.
So when you look at your calendar, it's just
colorful.
full of colors.
Yeah. And honestly, it's simple things that you can actually incorporate into your life, right? People tend to think that tools needs to be much more complicated, much more fancy. But if you're not able to upkeep it or actually religiously use it, there's no point in it.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, my Google Calendar is my lifesaver.
Yeah.
I still double book myself all the time, which is a bad habit.
Happens with
right? I still need to do it better. And there's always things that I can improve on. But yeah, it's one of the tools that I cannot live without. Hopefully I don't double book myself in the future if I use it better.
Yeah. And I know in your past life, you're a bit of a tech girly.
Yeah, oh my God.
So, and you mentioned AI just now. So how do you use AI for Inari?
I use AI in everything.
Okay.
Everything. It helps me. It's my social media copywriter, my strategist, right? My social media strategist is like my co-founder as well. So whenever I have an idea and I don't know, whether it makes sense, I'm able to use AI as my sparring partner. It's my financier. It's able to help me break down, finances better. Think about how I can improve in cash flow, how I invest in different things, right? It helps me with HR. All the policies. It's probably the first time that you are applying for, SOXO, EPF. How do you do that? Everything is through AI. If you go on our website at the moment, we are using AI customer service as well. Yeah. So everything in business is AI. And I don't think I have not used or touched ChatGPT for more than 2 hours. I'm always there.
Yeah.
So if you're able to prompt it and teach it well enough, train it well enough, it is super valuable. And allows you to be very efficient with the work that you do.
I love that you say my ChatGPT is my co-founder.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Totally, right? It can
Yeah.
be my lawyer. It
Yeah.
can be my co-founder. In fact, sometimes I think they do a better job.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I have to caveat, I'm using the pro version.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, oh, ChatGPT really
They have
doesn't.
limitations.
Yeah, they have limitation. They're hallucinating. And that's why you don't expect AI to fall in your lap and just think like you, right? This is where the misconception happens, right? You actually need to train it. You need to put in data. You need to correct it. You need to lead it to the right direction before it gets to a point where it can be your co-founder, for example.
Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere where they say like in the next 4 or 5 months, AI is going to be smarter than human.
I heard that too.
Yeah. So, it's a very interesting, scary, but also really exciting world that we're living in. And it's just how you leverage it and leveraging it responsibly. I think it's important.
This question might be related to your answer with AI, but I'm just going to ask you anyway, just to see if there's any differences. Most people, when they're starting out, they've got limited funds. And so how do you make that decision on which areas of the business to prioritize first in terms of funding?
Okay. So I bootstrapped my business up until now, right? And when I first started, it's all my savings. So it's very scary because it's parting with your hard-earned money that you have, amassed over the past couple of years, maybe a decade even, right, for some people. For me, again, it comes back to what exactly are you trying to build? What kind of business are you trying to build and why, right? If you're doing a product-based business, then you need products to sell, right? That is where I would put my money first, getting the right MVP out there for me to gain that, right? Because if you don't have a product, you have nothing to sell. Then you have no business, right? If you're a service-based business, then it's about how do you get your service out there for people to know? Because if, again, nobody knows, nobody's going to engage with your service. So once you have the product or the service in place, then it's about, and you start making money, then it's about, okay, how can I sell more to get more funds? Is it because I am not selling fast enough and I have the product? Or because I am short of manpower because there's only one me and 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? That I need help? Or is it that, I need marketing because now I have the right number of people and the right amount of product, but I need more people to find out about my business.
Yeah.
So based off of that, I will always start off with spending the money on either product if you're a product-based business, or getting, the word out there if you're a service-based business. And based off of your performance, decide whether you need more products to sell, or you need more manpower to help you sell, or you need more people to know about your business to sell. So all of this, you will only know once you start. Yeah. But that is how I would think about spending the money.
Okay. We've spoken a lot about your transition and a lot of practical tips that you've shared,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to go into the mental aspect of things.
Okay.
And what mindset shifts did you go through on your journey with Inari? I know that you may have a lot of answers because you've shared earlier it took you about 6 months to a year before you even jumped into that.
I know it sounds so cliche, but it's really the realization that it's in the journey, not the end result. And maybe I can share a bit about why I say that, right? When you're in corporate consulting, you have very clear KPIs. You will know what you need to do to get promoted. How many years have you stayed in a specific position before you go for your next promotion? Once you make that promotion, what are the KPIs that the company tracks against to define your performance? It's very certain, and it's always the end goal, right? You chase, and you get there and you hit the promotion, and then it's the next goalpost. But what I realized when I started my own business is that there's no goalpost anymore, because that goalpost is so far off that, it's not like, oh, after 2 years, I'll get there. There's no guarantee in anything. And that is where you slowly have to change your mindset that it is really not about that goalpost anymore. It is about how I walk that journey, what I learn along the way when I'm in that journey. And yeah, and that was where you realize that is the biggest win. And that is the biggest learning point in this whole journey, right? That is why you go into entrepreneurship. It's to learn all of these different things. It is to experience these new opportunities that you will never get to experience or very unlikely to experience in your corporate job. Like ever since I've left corporate consulting, I have been on podcasts. I've been covering magazines. Sometimes I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I've been to New York for New York Fashion Week, right?
So
I'm opening the
exciting.
store. I'm meeting people I never thought I would meet, right? Like I used to see these people on social media and now I'm like talking to them and I'm connected to them and I can like text them and say, hey, like I need advice. I would never imagine things like that, you know? So I feel like that is when you realize your mindset changes, that it's not about the end goal. It's not about making 100 million or it's not about opening 10 stores. It is about the people I meet, the experiences I gain along the way. It's the difficult, like curveballs that you have to overcome. When you realize all of these things come together, that is what makes, this journey so meaningful and exciting. It's not the end goal anymore. It's not about hitting that 100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What limiting beliefs that you had to leave behind to become this person?
I think I am still learning to undo all of this. There's so many. I don't even know where to start. But for sure, one, I think in consulting, it's very stressful. I used to work 7 days a week also. And
So your life didn't really change in that sense.
Well, yeah, but I'm happier now, right? And I'm actually much busier now as well, right? I work so much harder now. Not saying that I don't work hard back then. I used to work so hard, right? But my worth back then was very much tied down to how much work done, how busy I was, how fast can I get that deck out?
Yeah.
How many client meetings can I cover in a day, right? How many projects can we sell? So it was always my self-worth was very much tied to my achievements and also what people view of me, right? So when I first, left my consulting role and started Inari, I remember sitting in a car at like 11 a.m., going to the bank or like going for my facial and feeling so guilty. And I remember asking myself, like, what did I do to deserve this? I'm not worthy of this. I shouldn't be going and doing my facial at, 11 a.m. in the morning when everyone else is working. Why am I not waking up and sitting in front of the computer at 7 a.m.? And it was so hard for me to undo that because I was tying my self-worth into being busy, just working, right? I have no life. But the reality is I was going for facial at 11 because I'm working on Sunday at 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. maybe because I'm doing an event, right? I am working in the evening when most people aren't because, that's when they have their time out from work. Whereas I'm like, let's avoid traffic. Let's go and be efficient and optimize your day, right? So I think really having to like undo that guilt of like not waking up and like sitting in front of the computer the first thing in the morning and attaching my self-worth into something else. So that's one. I think two is really trying to understand and understand that I don't need to justify why I'm doing something to everyone. I still find myself doing that a lot. I always feel obliged to explain to people why I'm taking a certain decision, but I also recognize that not everyone will understand and it is okay. It is okay to just leave them with whatever impression they have. Focus on yourself and what you're building. And the third one would be being afraid to ask for help. Yeah. I used to think that no, I don't want to owe anybody anything. I don't want to feel indebted, right? But now I'm like knocking on doors. Hi, this is what I'm doing. You don't know me yet, but I admire what you do. And honestly, be shameless. Go out there, knock on doors, and ask for help. You'd be surprised at how willing people are to provide information and share, right? Like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've learned to ask for help. hey, can you be my model?
Yeah.
Hey, do you mind sharing with me how much or how I should go about, with this particular thing? Can you teach me how to register my team in KWSP because I don't know how to do it? Stupidest question only sounds stupid in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's your first time doing it and someone has done it before. So yeah, ask for help.
Yeah. Were there times where you felt like you wanted to just leave it all behind and just go back to corporate?
Oh, yes, many times. Many, many times. I think this is one of the hardest thing I've ever done, I would say. Of course, at times you're like, why put yourself through all this stress and uncertainty and emotional trauma, right? I think at one point in time, even till this year, right? Like a couple of weeks back, I was like, entrepreneurship is really bad for my mental health. Right?
Yeah.
Because the highs are really highs and the lows are really low, right? So there are numerous times that I would think like, oh my God, like, should I just go back? But you get to a point where you're like, nope, you're too far in. And you can never imagine yourself going back. And I remember this incident earlier this year where I was telling my husband about how, like, why does cash flow seem so hard to manage, right? Even if you're making money, it just goes away. Because, I mean, you're a product based business. As you grow, you actually need to reinvest quite a lot of the cash into product. And that was something I didn't realize. And he was like, well, you got to do this. If you don't do this, you have to go back to consulting. And that was when I had the biggest breakdown of my life and I started crying. And that was when I know it's too late to go back. And since then, I never thought about going back again.
Wow. So your body literally was rejecting that
Yep.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, no more going back. It's
Mm.
just, straight road ahead.
Yeah. So how do you stay motivated and disciplined then when you have no bosses to report to?
Mm, I think when you see a purpose in what you do and a vision, naturally you would want to work towards it. And that's why I think it's so important to work on something that you believe in. Um, sure, everyone can open an X business or a Y business, but someone might have a greater alignment in the purpose of why they're opening this business or service compared to you, and they will last a lot longer. So always, if you can, find something that you feel there is a purpose and that you believe it to work on because the journey is going to be quite hard and it's going to be a long one. Who knows, 10 years, 20 years. And you very much should be guided by your belief. And of course, having really good support system is super important. I really thank the people around me for putting up with my crazies during this time. But yeah,
Mm. What do you wish more people knew, Eva, about this journey?
that it is an ongoing game. Yeah. I think people, like I mentioned earlier, always think that it's an end goal of like making 100 million. It doesn't stop there. Or like, I don't know, 100,000, right? It doesn't stop there. It keeps growing. So you need to realize that it is a continuous journey. And it's a long game.
Because you came from a consulting background where it's very
Mm.
much practical and do.
Mm.
It's not very creative. But you're in a business that you have to be very creative in terms of your designs and so many things.
Yeah.
How do you strike that balance, or how do you like rediscover that creative side of you?
So I think I'm one of the few, I'm very blessed to be actually balanced on my left brain and my right brain.
Okay.
So actually growing up, I've always been very creative. I painted, I drew, I like did stitching, I did clothing, I did everything under the sun. I was designing website when I was younger. I was just doing anything creative that I can get my hands on and trying to sell it, even when I was in primary school. So naturally, I think when I was in form 3, I think, where you have to decide which stream you go into in Malaysian school system, I knew like there was an element of me or like there was a part of me that wanted to do arts because that's what I really enjoy. But the pressure of like, what society thinks smart should look like is that you must go into science stream. So that's what I did. I landed in the science stream. And then when I graduated from high school, I wanted to go and do college and university, right? I remember telling my dad I wanted to do mass comm. And mass comm is also very creative, right? And he was like, no, you should do something else. So it was always societal pressure that pushed me towards the more technical, um, the more technical side of life, right? Or the more scientific side of life. But through it all, I've always kept the creative side of things, whether it's through painting or whether it's through like just drawing, designing. And actually, before I actually started my jewelry business, I was doing jewelry classes, jewelry making classes. My mom is very creative. She draws. She makes jewelry herself. She comes from a family of goldsmiths. So I think I've always been exposed to the creative side of things. That is like my hobby.
Mm.
But in my career, I was always building the more technical side of things. So when it comes time to, start my business, I was like, I'm going to do something creative. So it felt like a natural transition and it feels much better for me. Like I enjoy the creative side of things. It's just that maybe in the environment that we're in, creativity or the creative industry is always deemed to be less successful. At the very least, that is what I thought. But of course, I think times have changed. A lot of aspect of life and opportunities sits in the creative space of things.
Especially when with the rise of AI and everything, I think the value is shifting towards more creativity and yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like with also AI, right? The rise of AI, people start appreciating um, the slower ways of doing things, the
Yeah.
handwritten notes,
Yeah.
the handmade jewelry, right? The handicraft, the person that went behind it. So there's a lot of different perspectives that you see things from with the rise of AI.
What is your advice to those out there who worry that they're going to throw away this success and this reputation that they've built in corporate if they decide to just pivot and go into a completely new direction?
You know what's so funny? The fact that I thought I was going to lose it all when I left, and then realized that was this whole new world that was going to give me so much more than what I've been doing for the past 8, 9 years in the corporate world. Because what I realized was that I was doing the same thing at a different level and different scale, but I was always in the same environment. I only knew bankers, I only knew consultants, I was only living in my very square box of a wall. When I stepped out of that comfort zone, I realized there was a whole new world for me to explore. There are so many more opportunities, there are so many more learnings. I was very much just pigeonholing myself into one small corner. So instead of seeing it as giving it all up, imagine what are the possibilities that you can actually learn when you open yourself and like allow yourself to go out there and explore the world, because that is truly when you would understand the term the world is your oyster. I don't think I ever really understood all of these terms until I went into entrepreneurship, and that feeling is like so mind-blowing. Yeah.
Mm.
So don't be afraid, basically.
Yeah. And it's also, I don't feel like it's a waste because look at you, you've applied all your experiences into this business.
Yeah, and honestly, like I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was young. I remember like when I was 12, my mom introduced me to a mentor who was trying to like, carve out or get an idea out of me. And I was like so stressed out. I'm running out of time. I was 12, right? I was 12. I was not running out of time, right? And people are like, oh my God, I'm 24. I'm 25. I need to start my next $1 billion business idea like in the next how many years. I must make it to Forbes 30 under 30. Honestly, all of these are just what society feeds you to believe what success should look like. The reality is sometimes, the longer you stay in a space, it's probably because, you just needed to learn a little bit more before you are well equipped for your next big jump. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. He wasn't really rich until much, much later in life, right?
Yeah.
So I think people need to stop putting so much pressure on themselves. Like all these arbitrary like deadline, like how women should start a family and get married and be settled by 30. Like who said that?
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. Take your time. And when you realize that the urge to come out and carve something for yourself is greater than the fear of the instability that's out there, you know that it is time to go out there and open or do something that you believe. Yeah.
That's so beautifully said. I've always been envious of people that sort of had sort of an idea of what they wanted to do growing up, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people out there could resonate as well. Some people might be feeling a bit lost. They know that they don't enjoy what they're doing now, but they don't exactly have an idea of what do they want to venture into, what do they want to build. What do you recommend they do?
Quit. No, quit. No, don't quit your job first. I always think people feel stuck because they have been in the same environment for far too long, and the same expectations, right? So if you can, take 3 months off, take a sabbatical, go and do the things that have been in your bucket list for the longest time. Go and see the world. Like, if it's backpacking in Italy, do it. If it's going to take a barista course or like learn how to be a sommelier, do it, right? What is there to lose? But what you'll gain instead is the clarity and the life that you realize that's out there. Like, a lot of people are so caught up in this little bubble that we live in that sometimes you can't see what's out there. So I always believe that if you don't know what you want to do, just start by taking out a piece of paper, write down all the things that you've been curious about. Take 3 months off work if you can. Of course, not everybody can do that. Then go do it, right? Just follow the flow. And then after that 3 months, you'll come back and you realize that, hey, actually, I realized that I really love something, or I feel strongly about something, or I really love this place and I want to move there. You never know. Like, what you need to do is remove yourself from the environment that has been basically, you know,
Conditioning.
yeah, like conditioning you or pigeonholing you. When you remove yourself from that situation, you'll realize that your passion maybe lies somewhere else and your calling is something else. And then you go from there. If you don't, maybe it's a good 3 months break that you needed. There's no loss in anything. Yeah.
There's no loss when you're just gaining perspective.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes it's also about asking yourself, when was the last time you took a 3 months break, right? When was the last time that you roamed down the street with no agenda, right? With just the hope and dreams of like meeting new people or just enjoying the birds chirping, just simple things in life.
Yeah.
Because we're so conditioned to just achieve, right? That sometimes we forget the small little things in life.
And that's why I always find myself having so many business ideas when I go for holiday.
Right? Yeah. I love traveling. And sometimes like, people are like, oh my God, Eva, you travel so much. And I'm like, yeah, but that's where I feel like when I come back from a holiday, I either have a new like collection idea, a new campaign, a new something.
Yeah.
And I feel so much more inspired and so much more alive again. And that allows me to put so much more back into the business. So sometimes people think that, in order for you to be successful, you need to work on your business 24/7, 7 days a week or 365 days a year, right? Nonstop.
Yeah.
And I remember someone that I knew, he was starting his own business as well. And he was like, Eva, if you love what you're doing, you have to work through the pain and you have to like work till 2 a.m. And I'm like,
the hustle and the grind is very much a male's perspective, isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, if my body tells me to rest, I am going to rest. If I'm curious about this part of the world, I'll go travel. And if you're truly passionate about what you do, you will realize there's so many opportunities in the things that you explore when you're abroad. For example, like when I went to Australia, I was like looking at like potential supplier. I was looking at designs. I was looking at how people ran their business. I was looking at what people were wearing. I was looking at the architecture. There's so many things that you could learn and you can take away from all of that while enjoying your holiday that you're like, why did I not think about this? But that's because, you have, again, pigeonhole yourself into this four walls that limits what you think is possible. So go out there, see what the world has to offer, and sometimes that will do your soul a lot of good.
Yeah. I have a random last question for you before we wrap up.
Yeah.
If you were given 100 ringgit
Mm-hmm.
to help make someone's life better,
Mm-hmm.
how would you spend it?
Well, 100 ringgit to
Yeah.
make someone's life better. Um, I think I would try and spend it on a course or like an educational something, whether it's a course or a class that allows someone to realize the potential that they can tap into, the opportunity that's out there. Because I feel that if you're able to teach someone how to fish, they can,
Feed themselves.
yeah, maybe not just feed themselves, right? They might be able to feed the whole kampong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, really, I think education and opening up the realization of possibilities of what's out there
Mm.
can change someone for many generations to come. Like not only them, but also potentially their grandkids' lives.
Yeah.
Right? If there are still 100 ringgit courses available out there,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there
Yeah.
are, but I
Yeah.
think there should be,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Or I'll just, buy them food, come every week and share knowledge of what I've
You
yeah.
give them the
Yeah,
knowledge.
I will
Yes.
share what I've learned. And, we use the 100 ringgit for the roti canai that we can have every Monday morning, for 1 hour. That's probably more feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Maybe that would be a better answer.
But really amazing answers. It's been such a pleasure having you here. And I feel like I've learned so much. I felt like I was in a masterclass.
No, I
Yeah.
think, I'm also learning along the way, and I've gained so much from people who have shared their experiences as well.
Yeah, thank you for being so open to share. Before you go, please share with the viewers where can they find you?
Mhm.
How can they buy your beautiful pieces? I see you wearing a few of them as well now. Yeah.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. So we're at Inari Jewellery, Jewellery. I have to clarify that because that's the whole American English or the
Yes.
British English. We also have a website, so www.inarijewellery.com. We are also opening our physical store, best ever physical store in end of October at
Ooh.
KLGCC Mall. Yeah.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, please give this video a like, drop a comment on which was your favorite part, and share this to somebody that needs a little dose of inspiration. Thank you for watching. Hey, did you enjoy the episode? If you're looking for more interesting conversations like that, check us out on YouTube and Spotify at Out of Office for Good. And while you're at it, might as well follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well at Out of Office for Good Pod. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.